Hey guys, Ryan here for Bender Wins. Hope everyone's doing well today. Today's video, we're going to talk about treating your sports betting like a business. Treating sports betting like a business is very important. If you don't look at this as a long-term venture and treat it like you would a business, it's going to be very difficult to succeed long-term. So talking about like certain things, I always talk about bankroll management, setting targets for yourself, dealing with the ups and downs of sports betting, and how you approach your record keeping are all things that I want to talk about and discuss how you need to treat sports betting like a business. So first and foremost, let's dive deep into the record keeping and how you approach this. So you're probably going to have to change the way that you're approaching your sports betting. First off, I'm going to start with a story. One of the times at Caesar's Palace Sportsbook, I had a conversation with a guy, and I know that he is a winning sports bettor, but we had an interesting conversation. He's been around the game for a long time, very well respected in the industry, but having a conversation with him, I was a little bit surprised that he didn't really know his numbers, and that's kind of a trait among professional sports bettors, that most professional sports bettors know their numbers inside and out. And what I mean by know their numbers, a lot of professionals are not concerned with win percentage. And I know it's a number gets thrown around a lot out there. You see people saying, hitting 55% or 57%, 58%. It's not really an important figure. It's not what professionals use to gauge their overall profitability. ROI, return on investment, is the main number that's used, because return on investment takes into account not only your win percentage, but your average odds that you're betting at. So there's a lot of sports bettors who they focus a lot on value underdogs, and they might be hitting 48, 49%, but unit-wise, they're up. And that's why they focus on ROI. They're not concerned about hitting a certain percentage. Obviously, if your average bet is, say, minus 110, if that's your average bet that it works out to minus 110, then obviously, you want to be hitting 55, 56%. That should be your target. But why it's important to know your numbers, not just know your overall ROI, but you need to break this down by sport. So let's take a look at a successful corporation out there. So we'll use, Johnson & Johnson. I'm just throwing it out there, or, General Electric. Any large conglomerate company that has numerous different divisions. They're going to release an annual report, and they're going to release their quarterly report. And within that quarterly report, they're going to say, this is our profit, this is our profit margin. But if you listen to the conference calls, the calls they do, what they'll do is they actually break it down by division. And that's what's really important to a lot of investors. And that's what's important to management, is understanding not just the overall profitability of a company, but understanding divisions. What I mean by divisions of a company is you might have a company that has numerous different products that they sell. So Division A might sell widget 1, Division B might sell widget 2, and so on and so forth. And how this relates to sports betting is, if you don't know your numbers by individual sport, you're probably losing out on an opportunity to improve your overall ROI and eliminate negative ROI from what you're betting. So what you really need to do is you need to break this down. So let's say you're betting on, basketball, football, hockey, soccer, all right? You need to not only know what your overall ROI is, but you need to know your ROI by sport. And even I would go one step deeper. If you're betting football, you would want to know what your ROI is for NFL, NCAA, and CFL if you're betting it. So why this is important is, let's say you have a 4% ROI, good solid number, and you have a 4% ROI, means you're returning $4 of profit for every $100 that you're betting. if you can go through each individual sport and you can say that, NHL hockey, my ROI is 5.2%. And in NBA, it's 4.9%. And then NFL is 2.1%. And then in college football, I'm minus 1.1%. So by doing this, you're able to identify areas where you need to improve and or make changes. If you just look at your sports betting as one operation, you're not able to identify these, we'll call them problem areas. And by not identifying these problem areas, that 4% ROI, although it seems really good, if you could eliminate 150 picks a year at a negative ROI, think what that number might go to. That number might go to 4.8, 5.5. Like, it's a significant difference, guys. And the only way you can do that is by breaking it down by sport. And that's what I mean, guys, when I say I talk about this treating sports betting like a business, is you really need detailed records, okay? You could go into any, Fortune 500 company and they would have like unbelievable detailed records of, cash flow and balance sheets, quarterly reports, all that. And it's very well broken down, but behind the scenes, they know what those breakdowns are by division. And that's why you see these companies will sometimes have layoffs in certain divisions. They'll close certain divisions. They'll make changes appropriate to focusing on minimizing their losses and increasing profit in their most profitable divisions. So just imagine to yourself for a second that you're an unbelievable hockey handicapper and you're really good at baseball, but you suck at football. Okay, so you really have to make that adjustment. You have to make those decisions that either one, you're going to really try to improve on those, or you do what a lot of professional sports bettors do, and that's just eliminate that division, not bet on those sports. And by doing so, you can really, really increase your ROI. So again, it might not sound like a lot, guys, but taking an ROI from 4% and boosting it to 4.5%, 5% will make a significant difference in the amount of money that you win sports betting. Significant. I know 0.5%, 1% doesn't sound like a lot, but when you imagine the turnover that you're betting on all the different games you're betting, it makes a massive difference. A 1% ROI difference. If your average bet size, okay, let's say your average bet size is $100 a game, and you're betting 5 bets a day. Okay, so it's 500 bets a day. And then you work that out over the course of an entire year. You might be looking at, $1,500, $2,000 difference in your pocket just by eliminating or adding 1% to your ROI. So again, it's very significant. And with that comes the importance of record keeping. So I've talked about it before. If you haven't developed something to do proper record keeping, where it's going to break it down by sport, use a free site. There's several of them out there. There's a lot of different opportunities that you can track your sports betting, and it'll actually break down not only your win percentage, but your ROI, your average bet size, average odds you're betting at, etc., etc. And it becomes very important. One of the other aspects of it, when you treat this like a business, you're less likely to make bad and irrational decisions. Okay, you're not going to, when you have a bad month, you're going to just treat it like a bad month like you would in a business. Okay, when a company has a bad month, they don't all of a sudden go out and make a bunch of risky acquisitions. No, they stick to the fundamentals of what made them successful in the first place, and they try to make changes along those lines. So, this goes back to the bankroll management aspect. If you have a bad month and you're not treating this like a business, you're going to be much more likely to chase, to up your bet size, make poor decisions. But if you're treating this like a business, almost imagine that you have a responsibility to shareholders. And if you're treating this like a business, you're not going to go out and blow your whole bankroll on 5 games or something like that, trying to make your money back. So it's important, again, not only to look at each sport individually, but it's important to look at every single day, every single week, every single month individually. How you performed yesterday or the previous week or the previous month shouldn't have an impact on what you're doing going forward. Okay, so it's very important, guys, that you're staying focused. You're not getting discouraged by bad months, because they're going to happen. It doesn't matter who you are. The greatest professional sports bettors of all time, the Billy Walters of the world, had losing months. Okay, so that's it. 30, 31 days of hell that you're going through. You're going through sustained losing streaks, but you cannot deviate. You have to stay disciplined. One of the best ways to do that is by setting targets. I talked about it before in a previous video about having goals for yourself. I think having goals is very important in sports betting. That you should not only have goals in terms of what you want to do on a weekly or monthly basis, but make plans for the money. Make plans for when you hit a milestone. So if you've won $10,000, what are you going to do with that $10,000? Maybe you want to add $5,000 to your bankroll, and maybe you want to add $5,000. Like, make that real, because when you make it real, it inspires you and keeps you motivated. If you're able to stay disciplined, and then you cash out $5K and you take your family on a vacation, that becomes real. It feels real. When you're sitting in the Caribbean, and your entire vacation is paid for because of your discipline, that becomes real. And that's very important, guys. But setting targets is very important to keep yourself on track. So it's not just setting targets of what you want to do with the money, but you want to set individual targets. So certain targets that I set. The one target I always set is I keep a win-loss record, not based on the results of the game, but I keep a win-loss record of how often am I beating the closing line. So that's very important as well. How often is the line I take, the line I'm getting, better than the closing line? And what I mean by that is, obviously lines move around a lot, and you want to get the best price. So if you're betting, when the football lines first come out, let's say you're taking New England at -6. And later on, that line goes to -8. Okay? You beat that closing line. You got a better line. At -6, you got a better line than the closing line. That's a win. And now, it's very important to track this, because if you're constantly betting the line that the game goes off at, or potentially lines going the other way against you, you're giving up value. And that's what all of this comes down to, guys, is value. So one of the targets I set for myself is having a win percentage of beating the closing line. Obviously, I have goals for myself in terms of ROI that I look for. I have win percentage goals that I do have. But again, I'm not as focused on the win percentage. I'm more focused on ROI. And that's why, again, I say that in the industry, you see win percentage everywhere. And that's just because it's basically, it's been like ingrained into people's mind that everything's about win percentage. You need a high win percentage. You need, and you see it out there. People, I'm hitting 62%. I'm hitting 70%. Like, most of it's hogwash. But, if you're hitting that, the really important factor that you're taking out of that is your ROI, because it's your ROI that's going to generate the money for you. And that's really ultimately what you need to know, guys. So that's pretty much it for today, guys. I just want to, it's really important that you change your mindset and really approach this like a business. Treat it like a business, guys. Sit down at your desk, do your record keeping, input all your games, winners and losers. Do not get discouraged when you have bad months. Maintain your bankroll management and set targets for yourself. And when you hit those targets, reward yourself in some way. Because if you don't, guys, it just becomes about the numbers, and it's really not exciting until that money's in your pocket and being spent. So anyways, guys, I appreciate it. Thank you very much, and as always, guys, have a very lucky day.